Hey everybody, it's Suzanne. I am here with our latest maker. This is Erika Woodhouse with Perch. And I want to actually pass the mic right to her because she has such a unique business. I've never met anybody that does what she does. So I want you to tell us what you do because it's so cool.
Thank you. I mean, and thanks for being interested in this. It's something that I kind of made up, because I saw a need for it. So I help homeowners or home seekers with their big home decisions. And that means, should we transact? And then I point them to a really great agent like yourself. And when we renovate, what is that going to cost? How long will it take? Who do I hire? How do I communicate with them? I'm trying to make sure they have all the information to make really great decisions, and that they're in the driver's seat of their renovation.
Yeah.
Because there's a big gap between what you need to know and what is easy to get your hands on and
or
make
what
a good decision.
HGTV makes it look like it's so easy, and then here's a homeowner about to spend. I mean, I think the lowest. I don't know. It's probably at least $300,000 these days to do a decent
depending
renovation.
on what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And
but
then,
if you're talking kitchen and bath, you're starting kind of there.
Yeah.
So.
And then the sky's the limit. So it's like people are about to spend a ton of money and time, and it's something that nobody has gone through. If you haven't gone through it before, it's like you don't know what questions to ask, and the mistakes and all that can be so costly. So I love what you're doing because again, I like to help people kind of figure out. We do it like, should I stay or should I go? Like, should I renovate or should I move? Can I ever will this house ever become what I want it to be? And then, you come in, it's like, okay, to get to that, turn this into that, to get to that next step.
Totally.
So tell us how it works. So well, actually, before we do that, real quick, your background's so interesting too. So tell us kind of how and why you started Perch and what got you here today.
Totally. So I started out like most people who are making that home decision. My husband and I we were renting and looking for a home years and years ago, and just went and looked at everything that was on the market and things that were in different areas. And we kind of created our own little spreadsheets and Venn diagrams for what price per square foot was in a certain area. The big, the upshot of all of that is that we got obsessed and we started thinking, what if we could do this better than maybe a developer we saw that made a strange choice in a condo, oh, that's not what we want. And I think a lot of people don't want that. But what would it cost? Is there a good reason for this decision? And so we did the deep dives in all of those different places and became developers, but mom and pop developers, one project at a time, really making those decisions for the first time, making the mistakes for the first time, figuring out where to make that story happen for each property, have it happen for as many people as possible in that particular location. And I learned a ton of lessons on the way. And it was a lot of it's fun. It is fun. Like, there's
rewarding.
A reason why people love the HGTV stories. But it's super stressful and it's really difficult. And when you rinse and repeat and you're doing it over and over again, you learn a lot of things. And I started thinking, like, how do people do this when, we were juggling all of life. We have 3 kids, while we were doing all of this. And then we learned how to make it, a little more systematized, things that you should do ahead of time so that you get things to be smoother, how to set up really good relationships with the people that you're working with. Those are all, sort of things you don't know until you've made the mistake. Or you could predict it. It looks great on paper, but doing it, sometimes you just have held back on a decision so long. You just burst into it and maybe make the wrong one. So I'm trying to anticipate that for people because I saw this huge gap. I'm like, why is it like this? You're going to need all of those people still. Like, you're going to need a really great real estate agent. You're going to need a great architect. You're going to need a great builder. You're going to need a designer. I really want you to have designers. People need that more than they choose.
Yes.
But you need all of them, but not all of them are going to be able to tell you the big picture thing, which is this a good investment for me? And that's part of it. I want people to really think of this not only like, how will I live in this space, but this is a part of our wealth, and how do we shepherd that in a really responsible way? And that's important to me. And I want people to have the info that they're not going to have time to do for themselves.
So around that vein of just everybody and advice and good intentions, but I call it like an armchair realtor because I feel like when someone's talking about buying a house, for example, they might be getting advice from cousins and uncles and coworkers, and it's all well intentioned, but then you're hearing 10 conflicting things
based on no things,
right?
Really.
Based on no things, or something that happened 10 years ago, and like the world and the market and the technology is all very different now. So it's like going to that person, but that one expert is great. But you just brought up a great point, though. When you're remodeling a house or doing a big project, there's multiple experts.
Right.
So tell us how that works, because I've seen successful projects suffer because there wasn't great communication. Even the very best architect, the very best general contractor and designer. So tell us how you come in, and even early on in the process, because I think it's so cool and so needed.
Right. Before you even decide to greenlight your plan to do this, I want you to be in good communication with the people who are your stakeholders. But I want the stakeholders to really be clear about how they're going to communicate with one another and be having a shared goal. So then you start and you look at what's possible with this place. And that's where a lot of people come in. I do a specific package that's the roadmap. And we're getting different ideas of what you want to have done, different sizes of scope that you can do with it. Small, medium, large, what are the costs, what are the timelines? Then we go to putting together a team. And for me, that part is pretty crucial because you can just go ahead and tap a great design build firm, and they could be great, but if you don't have your ducks in a row ahead of time, and if you're not communicating with them and asking what to expect next, you may not be actually doing a great job of being a good client too, which is kind of, like I don't want to lay it on the people, but a lot of times you need to know what to ask, how to be ready when they need a certain choice, how to anticipate what fund to free up, how to protect yourself legally, and make sure that the legal ways of communicating with one another, like writing a really tight contract, that's a big thing for me. How to do that in a way that protects both of you, because if you're empowered and they are empowered, both of you, it's going to really just like create healthy communication. And I mean, it's starting to sound like a whole different type of work, right? But it's key.
It's key. No, it is key. And you were telling me that you'll even select like 3 architects, like based on the people and the personalities and this project. Is it a historic house? Is it in Boston? There's so many different things. But then because your network is so deep, so then you'll say, these are the 3 architects I think you should interview, and then you'll set up those interviews and you'll be present, correct?
Yes.
So you're helping them ask the right questions. And then what I've been telling my architects is that you're making all of their jobs easier, because it's like now like you've actually educated the client, and you're all moving forward in a very healthy, systematic way, as opposed to like, we don't know what we want, I'm not sure how we're going to pay for it,
right?
But he wants this and I want that. Like, no, like, okay, you're saving everybody time and money, I feel like.
Totally. And like that team putting together process is sort of like, we know that, so let's say we've all decided this is the project that we're doing. Then I'm helping, let's say we know we need an architect, we know we need this particular project, it's going to be very design focused, we know we need a builder. So I will sit there and set up 3 different examples of each of those professions. And people can, say, hey, this person's aesthetic isn't really my jam, or this one I'm worried about them being too far. I usually am trying to vet all of those things out for you, because I think that's one of the biggest holdups for a lot of homeowners is they haven't matched the scope. And by that, I don't even just mean size, but the type of project they have with the size and type of business they're asking to do the work. And that could be any of those realms. And it's tricky, because how are you supposed to know how this works? I think we think architect, they kind of know all of this broad information, but really there's specific, like there are historic people who specialize in historic renovations. There are going to be people who have more of a traditional aesthetic, and those are going to be the places where they have the relationships with sourcing, etc.
Totally.
And so on. Or for instance, I have an architect that can do a lot of interior design, but he's not going to do soft finishes. And if I know my clients are really interested in going all the way to their upholstery and their draperies and some pillows, they need different advice, and I put that in their hands. Like, here's some good examples that would be a good fit for you. And then I help, like I MC the little meetings, okay, thanks,
MC Erika.
Thanks such and so, and I think it's helpful because it allows the service providers, whoever that might be in this case, to really showcase what makes them stand out, what makes them love the business they're in. I mean, it's not in like you're interviewing makers. In some ways, I'm saying, I know that person. Tell me what is great. What do you love about this? Why are you doing this?
What's
you want
your
people
passion,
who are
and
like,
that have that drive and that genuine passion for it, and they're not, burnt out by the, because it's such a personal, like, that's what I would say about real estate. I'm like, it's being in someone's home is such an honor, because it's like the most deeply personal thing for all of us. and now you're throwing all that, upside down with, contractors, and it's a lot to live through. And I'm sure you'll have these discussions too, but I'll talk to people about let's really get down to what it's like to live through this. Like I have a client now they need a short-term rental because they got to be out of their house for 6 months, and it's like that costs money too. So like just making sure that somebody like you can bring all that, like here's the good and the bad, and just be completely honest about it, and then get them to that. Like it must be so rewarding for you to go back and see the finished product. So
yes.
What do you have, like a project that was like just one of your absolute favorites or most interesting, or something that you're like, this is why I do what I do?
It's not, it's so funny because people say, I want to see before and afters, and that's not really what I'm offering. I'm not offering the look of the thing at the end, although I care about that a lot, and I've designed my own projects, so that's important to me, but it's more like, I want people to feel the relief of it having gotten what they needed.
Yeah.
So I have some clients who then they call me back to come and do something that seems like it wasn't about their big renovation. They want to put a water treatment system in their house, and could I help explain, translate contractor speak for them?
Yeah.
and that makes me happiest.
You're a translator. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it's sort of like an owner's rep. So if people are familiar with commercial construction, there's an owner's rep that's obviously like sort of telling people when to push back, or when things aren't quite up to industry standard, or how could we do this? I think there's a little bit of a jam here between the communication of these subs. They come in and they kind of talk about those things, and I do that in the residential side because that doesn't really exist. When you get to a point where you're in real trouble and you're going into litigation, then there's plenty of people who can help you with that, but this is before that. This is like life, day-to-day needs. And I think it makes it a lot easier for people. And so that's when they call me back at the end, because they know that I can translate. Those things that they don't need to know, these tend to be, a lot of my clients are people who are attorneys or engineers. They're people who really want to know the details, and they are experts in their own fields. They don't need to add a new thing to their list.
Yes. So I feel like that's so much of what makes up our market. Like you live in Concord. And I always joke that Route 2 is kind of fed by Cambridge, because we have a lot of scientists, a lot of engineers, analytical folks and it's like they're very busy and successful in their own world. So you can take all that and, take that off their plate. That's so huge. So thank you for sharing all of this. Is there anything else? Like, do you have a favorite era of architecture, or favorite neighborhood, or like what kind of excites you personally around construction and architecture?
I am like hesitant, very like loath to say too much about what I really love, which is mid-century.
Oh, so cool.
So we live in a house that was like definitely mid-century, and we've really decorated it in the same fashion, but not like obsessive. We slowly have, reupholstered this or collected that, and we look for all of that, and that's fun for me. I love that aesthetic.
So I do too, and it's been so nice to see those houses really in the past 10 years or so. I feel like make such a comeback and be appreciated. Like people are really studying their the reasons behind the architecture, and I love old houses, as you know. I'm a historic home girl. But part of what I love about the historic homes is also mirrored in the mid-century, in the sense of embracing nature. In old houses they had to utilize the exposures and the sun and the trees, and same thing. I feel like a lot of the mid-centuries, they're just the connection to the outside is just so cool, and they're trying to be efficient, and it's just and they're different. That's what I love. I just love when something's special and unique, and and that's what's cool about somebody being able to make their home into that unique thing that they've always wanted.
Yes, and I think with any of this, they have little personalities, right?
Yes.
Like I almost think of houses as people, and so we renovated a Victorian once, and I loved that. It's like you're speaking a different language each time, and so you get to enter the world of that particular thing, and it's a real pleasure. So our deep dive for our home is one thing, but what we've done has really ranged, and I think my favorite is the Victorian.
That's so cool. Yeah, they're so beautiful. But I love that. Yeah, you get to really get into that era. So very cool. And how can people reach out to you? What's the best way to?
Well, I have a website, so that's a good one. I write some really good emails. I like to think.
Awesome content. I love getting them.
Really Yay! I'm glad you enjoy it.
Thank you.
So yeah, and sign up for my email newsletter. I'm at perchplanning.com. That's the easiest way to find it. You can book a free call there if you want to know a little bit more if we're a good match to work together, or just figure out some of the free resources I have on my website and see what it's all about. It's kind of a weird thing, so
Wow,
there's a lot to read.
Fabulous idea, and you're helping a lot of people. So thank you for coming to meet with us on our own little perch, on our little porch here. I love the name Perch too. That's a great name. So thank you, Erika, and we'll be doing more stuff together in the future too.
I love it.
So stay tuned, people. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.